Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
Sabah al-Khair. Good morning, dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Nasser Mashni, Robert Martin and Yusuf Ahmed al-Rimawi. In this episode, we have a few topics. The State Liberal Party discussing the motion to move the Australian embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and also the cancelling of the visa to come to Australia, the visa of Bassem Tamimi, the Palestinian activist, the anniversary of Deir Yassin massacre, the 69th anniversary of that brutal massacre. And also we will be welcoming and talking to our friend Robert Martin about his trip to the United States and the anti-APAC activism over there. So for this and more, stay with us and enjoy the episode. Good morning, Nasser and Rob.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Oh, I'm very excited to be back.
It's good to have our international correspondent returning.
I've missed you very much, the two of you.
We have, well, not as much, but we've missed you.
In fact, a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit. But we're going to talk to you, Rob, about your trip to America. I've seen lots of posts and videos of the great work that anti-APAC advocates in America and yourself have done. But before we start if we can say, the interview with you, we have also a few topics to talk about. What do you have today, Nasser?
Well, I think, Yusuf, we need to just touch on a few things that are very topical at the moment. Firstly, the Victorian Liberal Party, the State Victorian Liberal Party, called for the embassy move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. So this is something that is new. And,
certainly.
We're also going to talk about Bassem Tamimi, who was set to board a flight from Jordan to Australia to come and talk in Australia on his activism in Palestine and in the West Bank when his visa was revoked at the actual airport before he got on the plane. So we need to address that. And also 69 years since Deir Yassin and the importance of Deir Yassin in the first instance as a trigger for the ethnic cleanse of Palestine.
And Deir Yassin is a village to the west of Jerusalem where a brutal massacre took place in 1948, just pretty much a month before the declaration of the State of Israel. So let's start with the State Liberal Party's motion. Is it a motion?
Yeah, correct. So the way politics works in Australia and probably most other Western democracies is there are individual parties within states and they have membership, and the members meet on an annual or semi-annual basis, maybe biannual, and will push through policies, if you will, and push it up to a national executive, and from there it becomes national policy. So in early April, the Victorian branch of the Liberal Party resoundingly is the word from that was from the news report, in favour of making it a federal Liberal Party policy to advocate and support the move of the Australian embassy from Tel Aviv, where every other international embassy is, to Jerusalem. So a really disturbing state of affairs.
Sounds like the Zionist wing within the Liberals have been very busy.
Oh, they've been very busy. Well, I mean, look, and we'll put a link to this news report onto the podcast so our listeners can find it. But, you know, you've got things like the Liberal MP for Caulfield, David Southwick, you know, who said this would further strengthen Australia's relationship. And he's so proud and grateful to be a member of the Liberal Party, which through Prime Ministers past and present recognises the importance of our country's relationship with Israel. I mean, just beggars belief.
So why is this happening? What's the point of the move?
I think it's in line with the Trump administration's revitalization of an old project. It might sound like a symbolic move to move an embassy from one place to another. However, there's so much more to that symbolic basically step, and it will mean simply that Jerusalem is no longer an occupied city by, or in the eyes of the international community.
So the ramifications are huge.
Very huge. And let me also provide a little bit of context from the Arab countries' point of view. We know that the majority of Arabs feel disappointed towards the Arab League, and they might view it as a dysfunctional body. However, even with a dysfunctional body like the Arab League has issued a resolution that actually calls for ties cut with the United States or any country that takes that step. So not only Australia is risking the relationship with the Palestinian Authority or the Palestinians in general, but also it's putting its relationship with the Arab world and probably the Muslim world at stake.
Just deplorable.
We were saying before that every president in America has always said no to this, other than Trump has sort of hasn't said yes, but he hasn't said no either.
Well, it was part of his election promise when he went to the APEC conference. That being said, Obama said the same stuff when he was in election mode. They'd all want to do it, but then they realise the repercussions of, they talk about Palestinians not doing unilateral moves. This is a unilateral move. I mean, Jerusalem is equally Arab and Christian and Muslim as it is Jewish. And to go beyond that point and accept it. As the capital, no country recognizes this.
That's true. I also want to just for the listeners who might be a little bit mixed up between what is East Jerusalem and what is West Jerusalem. There was only one Jerusalem. That is the old city between the walls. And if anyone has been to Jerusalem, it's clear that this is the huge big wall. I'm not talking about the...
not the Wailing Wall, but the wall around Jerusalem.
I'm not also talking about the separation wall.
No.
I'm talking about the old cities.
The old city wall. There is only one Jerusalem. There is only one.
It's one Jerusalem. No, but what Israel has done in 1948, it occupied 5 villages to the west of the city. One of them is Deir Yassin, which we are going to talk about. Deir Yassin is located a few steps away to the west of Jerusalem. There was also Ain Karim, where Hadassah Hospital is. And there is also Al-Malha. And there is also Beit Mahsir. These 4 or 5 villages became the neighborhood that today is known West Jerusalem, as if this is East and this is West. However, the whole of Jerusalem remained under the control of Arabs, particularly Jordanians, until the 1967 war. And therefore, all of Jerusalem is occupied. And this takes us, Nasser and Robert, to our... maybe we should speak about Deir Yassin because it's more thematic to Jerusalem, and then we'll talk about Bassem after Deir Yassin.
Of course. Well, as you spoke to just a moment ago, Yusuf, Deir Yassin, in April 9, 1948, in the morning of, Zionist terrorist organizations, the Irgun, Layla, Haganah, and the Stern Gang went into Deir Yassin. And Deir Yassin, as we just spoke, is just west of the old city. And they called it Operation Nashon. And somewhere, and depending on which report you believe, somewhere between 100 and 250 Palestinians were slaughtered. And which was very important for us to speak to this. It wasn't a war, it wasn't a battle. Deir Yassin had, in fact, had a peace pact with a neighbouring Jewish village. There was Jewish residents. There was no enmity in within Deir Yassin. They went in there and calculatedly killed everybody: women, children, livestock, pets. They left enough survivors to see them flee and share the horror. to tell the story, absolutely. And it was from there, and number one, we should recognise, the leader of this massacre was Menachem Begin, who later became Prime Minister of Israel.
And later won the Nobel Peace Prize.
That's right, yeah. So, no amount of blood can't be washed away by an Israeli or a Zionist. And the reality is this massacre was the trigger. And as you said, Yusuf, 6 weeks before the declaration of the State of Israel, was the trigger for the mass expulsion and the ethnic cleansing of Palestine.
Because it's worth mentioning that every radio or every Hebrew-speaking radio back then spoke about it. And then also the Arabs, when they heard about the massacre, they thought that they are exposing the massacre and talking about the brutality of the massacre, but eventually did what the Zionists wanted.
Created a plan for them.
Created a plan and more people, and amplified the fear. And I remember stories from my own grandparents telling me about how Safad, to the very north of Palestine, was influenced within the next 2 or 3 days by what happened in Deir Yassin.
Yeah.
And that was systematic. And I also want to make a reference to a BBC documentary on the 50th anniversary of Nakba that was in 1998. They released classified information, and some of these documents made it into a documentary. And there was a clear statement by the rulers of who later became the prime ministers of Israel, including Ben Gurion, that had it not been for Deir Yassin, Israel would not have been born. Mm-hmm. Simple as that.
Well, you talk about the stories you've heard, Yusuf, as a child. I can tell my father's stories, the stories he told my brothers and I. Deir Yassin is part of the consciousness that is Palestine. It's in our blood, in our hearts, in our soul. And, nobody said it better than Edward Said. And he said, to recall Deir Yassin is not just to dwell on the past disasters, but to understand who we are, where we are going. Without it, we are simply lost. And this is from Edward Said. And, one of the things about Deir Yassin that is different to most of the other stories is the Zionist policy was to expel the residents of Palestine and then demolish the homes, plant trees over them in order to wash Palestine from the dirt. In Deir Yassin, they didn't. In Deir Yassin, the homes are there. Today, it's a mental asylum. Yeah, it's for the criminally insane and the mentally disturbed. As if, there is no greater juxtaposition than the cleansing of Deir Yassin and the massacre of Deir Yassin and Zionism, which is a mental illness, than to create an insane asylum in Deir Yassin.
Indeed.
But what makes it even more calculatingly crazy is that if you visit the Holocaust Museum, Israel's official Holocaust Museum, Yad Vashem, if you go onto the lawns of the Holocaust Museum and look out, you are looking directly at Deir Yassin. You look directly into Deir Yassin, as if never again, to no one, excludes Palestine and Palestinians.
Except that one is Palestinian.
That is absolutely disgusting.
And they're doing it on purpose.
Disgusting.
They do these things
There's
don't
no
happen.
Reference at the Holocaust Museum. There's no reference of any of it.
No.
There's also we have to also say that Deir Yassin was not the first massacre.
No, or the worst massacre.
Or the worst massacre, because after Deir Yassin, even after Israel was created, we have in the 50s the Qibya massacre. We have also a Samur massacre. We have Kafr Qasim.
Sabra and Shatila.
We're still not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Still in the 50s. And then the list goes on and on and on. And of course to Sabra and Shatila in Lebanon, and to Qana in Lebanon, and Jenin, and the list goes on. In fact, there is a book that is called The Open Palestinian Holocaust. It's still open.
Ongoing.
Can I just ask, was Menachem Begin, was he the...
Menachem.
Was he the orchestrator of it, or was he a child? What was his role?
I think he might not be the main leader, but he had leadership roles. He wasn't just the executor, and all of them are equally responsible, and all of them are equally criminal.
The only reason I ask is because the Zionist lobby continually say that the Palestinians teach, they're martyrs put on walls, and this guy was their prime minister that they still talk about today. And I can't believe that Holocaust Museum is built on that.
It's not built on Deir Yassin, overlooking Deir Yassin. So you can actually look from the Holocaust Museum over Deir Yassin.
In fact, on the last note on this, because we need to move on, I want to also make reference to Madrid conference in 1991, October 30th, 1991, when for the very first time the Arabs and Israelis met in one room publicly. And Ishaq Shamir was the prime minister. He was the student of Menachem Begin. He spoke to the Arabs about the terror and terrorism of Arabs against civilians, Jewish civilians. And to the credit of the Syrian delegation, they were in that room with a newspaper written in English by the British mandate with a picture of Menachem Begin and wanted.
A wanted poster, yeah.
Wanted.
It's something we can Google. We'll put it on the link.
Yeah.
There's 50,000 British pounds in 1948. Could have bought you Australia if you found this guy.
And they showed it to the same person. You're talking about terrorism? How about this? So moving on, Nasser and Robert, to Bassem Tamimi, a Palestinian advocate. And in fact, he is one of the most respected and well-known activists in popular struggle against the wall, against occupation, non-violent. He was invited to speak at the Marxist conference, which is going to be this weekend. Mm-hmm. And the Australians took forever to approve the visa. They did approve it the next day.
No, not the next day. The day he was 4 hours before he boarded the flight, Yusuf.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, he was at Jordan Airport. So he'd left Palestine.
Tell me more.
He left Palestine, crossed the bridge, went to Amman Airport, was in the airport and got the email. Don't get on the plane. Your visa has been revoked. And where the issue is, is that we've had this huge debate about 18C. We've had, the Australian government bring Netanyahu to Australia.
Embrace Netanyahu.
We had visas issued, to Geert Wilders, from Holland.
The far right figure.
Ayaan Ali, she was supposed to be here last week, except they couldn't sell enough tickets to justify her appearance fee. These people get visas, but Bassem Tamimi, who is, the Amnesty International called him a prisoner of conscience, who's the EU has celebrated as a humanitarian and non-violent activist, whose brother, was killed by a tear gas canister shot at his head, who's been imprisoned, who's, led demonstrations on a weekly basis, him and his family, against the illegal seizing of his village's land. This man is denied coming here. But this is another example of the Zionists and the Israel lobby shooting themselves in the foot, scoring an own goal, Yusuf, because how many people are actually going to attend the Marxist conference this weekend? How many people are going to listen to him in WA?
Number, with respect,
And with respect, these are our supporters. It's a home game.
They're dedicated.
We love them for their support and their solidarity, but it's a home game. Yeah. The reality is what they've done is created a furor around an activist that we love to see, but he wouldn't have got this level of publicity. The reality is it's been on the ABC, the BuzzFeed, Guardian. It's been in the
Guardians,
Age. Yeah, the Age, Electronic Intifada.
Excellent.
It's been all over the place. So the amount of coverage, in fact, only a couple of days ago, Amira Haas wrote a really good article in Haaretz. Yeah. So the amount of publicity that's come from the fact that Dutton has decided not to let this guy in because his views may, in fact, if I can find the quote, might pose a risk to the good order of the Australian community.
That doesn't mean sense. That doesn't make sense to me.
It's just
not just because I know that Bassem will not pose any threat to the law and order of this country, but it shows the bankruptcy of the argument.
Absolutely. And what we want to hear about,
do better. If you want to really,
we want to hear from like Janet Albrechtsen from the Australian. We want to hear from Andrew Bolt. We want to hear from James Patterson. These guys are jumping up and down to make sure that Wilders can get here, and they can make sure that Ali
freedom of speech.
Where are these champions of freedom of speech now?
Silent. Now, to you, Robert, our international correspondent. Now,
I'm here, Yusuf.
Look,
I
thought you... okay,
let's continue.
Now, Robert, welcome back again.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Yusuf. I did miss you both very, very much.
And we did also...
Didn't stop you leaving.
No, 100%. I still had to go.
We want you to tell us, Robert, about the event, and also want to know why you actually wanted to take part in that event. So, all yours.
Well, I went for two reasons. One was to go to the National Press Club, where I could hear from world leaders like Ilan Pappé and many, many others, which I had
Hanan Ashrawi.
Well, the list goes on. But what I don't want to do is, I want to tell you a little bit about some of them, but I'm going to have a number of them come on the show and actually discuss things with us.
That would be fantastic.
And I tuned into the show last week, and I heard about you guys talking about the Australian public being more pro-Palestinian than they have been. Every year it's growing. And in America, they were saying the same thing about the Americans. Grant Smith, who's the director of a DC-based Institute of Research for Middle East Policy, he's also the author of The Big Israel, which is a great book. I have read it. He was talking to us about polling data. Do Americans support US aid to Israel? Now, 60% of Americans say it's far too much and it should be pulled back. They also had, they were discussing what's called the September 14 Memorandum of Understanding with Israel, where America said that, yep, we're going to give you $38 billion moving forward. They asked the question, and it was over 60% of the Americans say, we don't stand for that, which was a great thing. They have much higher obligations, such as poverty, water, and those sorts of things that they'd rather...
Schooling, health, universal health care. I mean...
It doesn't stop.
Let alone the wall. They've got to build a wall.
With Mexico.
With Mexico.
And get the Mexicans pay for it.
The Mexicans are going to pay for it.
That is a joke.
They were also asked whether or not the embassy should be moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and 56% of Americans say that it should not be moved, should not be tampered with. $254 million in foreign aid has been given to Israel thus far.
254 billion.
254 billion.
Yeah.
Did you know that? That is an absurd amount of money, isn't it?
Well, it goes a long way to dispelling this notion that the Jewish people are special. I mean, because I got to tell you, I can turn Papua New Guinea into a thriving metropolis if you give me 254 billion.
Well, and also it also destroys the myth that Israel turned the desert. Israel turned the desert into.
They made the desert bloom.
They made the desert bloom.
Yeah.
Well, not without American money.
Not without American money.
Well, there is a desert, but the place bloomed, yeah. I mean, it was a thriving... The Jaffa orange is Palestinian. It's not an Israeli notion. It was the agriculture that existed in Palestine pre-Zionist infiltration, occupation, and the establishment of the State of Israel. There was 1 million people there that thrived in agriculture and livestock and olives and.
The civil society in Palestine before Nakba was a vivid one, and it was actually a model to the rest of Arab countries. And I know I promised not to give so much context, but I will say one thing. There is a columnist, a Lebanese columnist, his name is Talal Salman, who referred to Palestine as the jewel of the Arab world before Nakba. So you were saying, Robert...
Let's get... What was your highlight, Rob?
Highlight was actually spending time with Ilan Pappé. I got to spend time with him having lunch.
The Israeli historian who wrote...
He's written many, many books, but the
most importantly...
The most important one was the ethnic
cleansing of Palestine.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're just checking on Robert's bibliography and knowledge there.
And also encourage our listeners to read the book if you haven't yet.
I'll also put the link of his talk over there as well. Ilan Pappé was talking about the two-state solution being dead, and it's been dead for a long time. He said if you're sleeping with it's like sleeping with a corpse if you believe that you're still going for a two-state solution. He said it's been dead for a very, very long time. He also said that Zionism is not an event, it's a structure. It's a settler colonial structure, was in 1882 and still is today. You don't appease a settler colonial project by dividing Palestine. That will never appease it. You have to decolonise it. And this is something that obviously you guys know, but it's something that the leaders, American leaders, everyone trying to do the peace process, aren't talking like that.
They
need to start talking about it.
I want to ask you, Robert, about the anti-APAC events that you took part in. Tell me about that.
So we met out the front of the White House. We had some great speakers, Alison Weir, Iyad Banat, and a few others were talking. We then marched to the convention centre, and little to my knowledge that there had actually been a fight going out the front of the convention centre, a Jewish resistance.
The Jewish Defence League, they're a terrorist organisation.
Okay, and so well known by the FBI. So they got there a little bit earlier.
They're a banned terrorist organisation, exactly.
It's not an opinion. This is a fact.
It's a fact, yeah.
So how did he get from Canada to get in there? So it was the leader that was there who actually started beating people. And I think there was a almost 60-year-old Palestinian man that was beaten. When we got there, they left because there was about 1,000 of us, but they got there very, very early. There was the people that they were beating up was the If Not Now When, which is a Jewish formed group, formed in about 2014. Very well prepared. They sing. They don't yell. They're very well organised. They had Dr. Cornel West with them. He was actually with them, leading them. And so that was really, really interesting to see. Big, diverse group of people. But also, I suppose the bit that really, really upset me was a Rabbi Shmuley. Now, I won't give him too much airtime, but he's a rabbi who's written a lot of books. He's been on Oprah Winfrey. He's on CNN on a regular basis. He's the go-to man, and he writes about relationships. Now, he was walking around there with maybe his son was maybe 13, maybe a little bit younger, and he had a small microphone on his jacket, and he had a cameraman about 10 metres behind. And he was walking around trying
to entrap people into...
He was trying to entrap people. And, basically labelling us a hate organisation. All we want is the Jews to disappear.
But you do have Jews on board.
100%, and there were lots of them. And so he was going up trying to just get tiny little words that he could use on his TV show. He has 1 million followers on his Facebook page. 1 million followers.
That would be more than 1 million haters.
Well,
not followers.
Yeah, it should be. But the fact that he put one of my friends, Ayman, over there, who is a Palestinian from Gaza, who writes about trauma. Shmuley put him in a corner and started demonising him, saying that he just hates the Jews and all of these sorts of things, which is just not correct. Ayman broke down in tears, and then this guy walked off to another group, just looking for the really angry people. We then came across Miko Peled, and I don't think he knew who Miko was. He was surprised that Miko was a Jew the way he was talking. I tried to find out from Shmuley whether he'd ever been in the West Bank and seen from the other side, which he didn't. He just told me to go back to Australia, and look after the Aboriginals. Again, diversion, but just a hateful person.
By the sound of it, it sounds like they're losing their mind when they do things as silly as violence, like the Defence League attacking people physically, or like this silly, childish approach that you entrap people into saying something and then you take it out of the context.
Well, I think it's worked for years, hasn't it? I think it has worked for very long.
they should have more respect to the minds of those who want them to believe in whatever they're trying to say, and really grow up in their counter approach.
Hopefully they will one day. And I think, look, Nasser and I were talking just before the show, and we're saying that the things that Israel has done to the Palestinians, you couldn't write about. And so most of the things that they've done are so unbelievable, people just don't believe it. And I think it's time that people started to wake up, and I think it's starting to happen.
Now, is there anything else you want to share about your trip to the United States in the last, let's say, 90 seconds?
I will put on our link all the different speakers, because there's such wonderful people that you can learn from, and people that we don't get to hear every day. And so make sure that you do go on there and let us know your thoughts.
Excellent. 0437 990415. Send us your thoughts, your questions, and we'll be happy to respond.
We should thank those. The comments we've had to date have been all really fantastic and
yes. Also,
so we want to thank those guys.
I want to share one of the. Unfortunately, he or she didn't leave a name. An avid listener phoned in to say another great show, which is excellent, and
send us your money.
I was going to say that, but. So
there's a little bit of hate mail, but not a lot. But the love mail is definitely overtaking, which is great.
And of course, it's in terms of how disproportionate it is. We have so much more supportive messages and emails than hate.
And whoever sent me the flowers, thank you. Happy Easter.
Yes, happy Easter to everybody of our listener, and I really hope you have a blessed holiday, and until we meet next Saturday, remember to tune in, same time, 9:30 in the morning, for more stories, news, views
and reflections
on Palestine. So until then, have a great time and happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast produced in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.